To work with him is hilarious. The thing that I don't think we're similar in is how confident she is to make friends.
Look at me now.
I feel really fortunate that I had Kaya to work with. She made what could have been a very long, very hard job, a really fun job. Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. How does it feel to be part of this game, which has now sold so many copies? People are calling it Game of the Year. This is also your first lead role in a video game. Like, how does that all feel?
I mean, it's just a bit mental, really. It's so exciting. We kind of knew we were making something special when we were making it, but obviously you never truly know. And I think sometimes when you're working on a project, you can get so into it that you're sort of blinded by being inside the project that you maybe misjudge things. So I'm always a bit conscious of, I might be doing that. I was really excited about what we were creating. And then the reaction has just been insane. I mean, I think it was 1 million in 48 hours or something like that, something crazy. So it's just a bit mind-blowing. And what I find really crazy, because like you said, this is my first main role. I've done lots and lots of video games before, but never a lead role. And it's the thing that boggles my mind is that people are sat playing my character for hours, like for hours. And it is amazing. It's really cool and really exciting, and it's lovely to hear all the positive feedback.
Yeah, like people have been really enjoying this game. I'm loving it. With my friend, I'm crying and laughing a lot because we're doing silly stuff. I know people's marriages are in question with this game sometimes, so that is also going on with this. So it's in terms of like just playing, people are just having a lot of fun, and the story also is really cool, and all of it just works so well together. And it's very fun to see, because I know you posted like a story of in the studio with that elephant, and I know that It Takes Two, the game before this, won Game of the Year in 2021, and people are already calling this Game of the Year. I know it's very hard to say. The year has just started, kind of. Do you think that this can? What would you feel actually if this game would kind of win Game of the Year?
I mean, it'd be incredible. The thing is, there are some big names coming out this year in the gaming world. So, we don't want to jump the gun here. It would just be amazing. It's been amazing simply to be attached to this game. That for me is a win. So even if it doesn't win Game of the Year, I'm still a very, very happy person. If it wins Game of the Year, I don't know what I'll do. Self-combust.
I know that you guys had like a proper screening for this game as well that was done. That must have been like a special feeling to like celebrate the launch of the game in such a way. What was that like?
It was amazing. I think it was the world's first premiere for a game.
Right.
Hazelight to come up with something like that. But it was amazing because it was a way of watching the whole narrative without us having to spend 14 hours playing the game together. Right. And so it kind of gave us this like, okay, this is what everyone's about to see. So we could see it before it came out. And the whole event was so cool. I think they'd had special catering in, and they'd made like dragon eggs as a canapé and like smoking drinks. And then there was like big like cardboard cutouts of Mio and Zoe, which I think Kaya actually ended up carrying hers or something like that towards the night. But that was incredible. It was so much fun, and it was really nice to get that first little bit of feedback coming in because it was pre-release. So it was cool.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, getting to watch like a game, as you said, like cut down so short in a movie, that must be such a different kind of feeling for everybody. Not only for you, because are you watching that for the first time? I'm assuming everything stitched together the way it is in game. I believe that would be a first time. Like, what was your reaction when you saw like your first character?
Well, do you know what's crazy is that because normally in game, you've got a little scene, then you've got a bit of game, scene, game. So you sort of have this, the gaming actually sort of levels out there, even if it's a high intensity level or something like that. You sort of zone in a little bit and you focus. When you take the gaming out and you're watching scene next to scene next to scene, it's literally the most intense thing ever because you're like, and then cut to the next scene, and it was a bit of a mind, I won't say that word, but it was incredible, and it is really credit to the writers, because it stood up as a film, like on its own, without the gaming in between. I mean, there are obviously some bits that you sort of like have to kind of know what had just happened, but yeah, it was really cool. It was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, that is so cool to see because I saw stories. I'm like, oh, that's so cool that there's a premiere happening. And you know, I would just and now that the game is out and it's been celebrated so much, it's not been a month yet, and it's going to be a month like in the next few weeks. And people are playing so much, and so many people are still going for it. So many people are discovering for the first time. I want to kind of go back in time, and I want to know, like, did this role kind of like start as an audition for you? Like, how did it all begin for you to get into this game?
Yeah, so this came through as a Zoom audition, and I basically, I remember we just moved into our house, and I was stacking my laptop on top of like toilet roll boxes, like cardboard boxes and stuff like that, and
Okay.
trying to get it all. And I remember the scene that I auditioned with, and it like as everything does, it had evolved, so much since then when we finally got to the game. But the audition scene was sort of interacting with Mia very much like in the beginning, the lift scene, where it's very like happy and blah blah blah, and then all towards the end where it's like, come on, we're best friends and all of that. And I remember thinking, oh, this is sweet, but sort of you don't ever, hang on, or I don't ever hang on to auditions. I think like, great, do it, enjoy the audition, and then forget about it, because the chances of getting it are always very slim. Um, and then when I kept getting called back for it, I was like, this. I kept getting given little nuggets of information and a little bit more about the character. And Zoe isn't too far from me naturally anyway, energy wise. So she was really fun to play. And then I remember having a chemistry reading with Kaya. And it's always funny when you go and sit in the room, because you're sort of like looking at who else is there and who else is being paired up. And I saw Kaya, and and we like had a little test read together of the script that we'd been given before we went in. And then we went in, and I'm sure she'll tell you this anecdote as well, but um, we we sort of it was a lift scene that we were auditioning with. And we did it, and we finished the scene, and then you sort of stop and you wait for the cut, for the director to say cut, and you start still, got to the end of the line, waiting, no one's calling cut, and you're like, what's going on? Still doing some, like lift acting, waiting, and it went on for so long that we were both like kind of starting to look at each other like, do we do something else? And then suddenly they go cut, and they're like, did you guys not get the rest of the scene? And neither of us had turned over the page. Both of us had got it wrong. And I think from that point, me and Kaya were like, okay, we're on a level with each other. This is good. We're we're both bonkers. So yeah. And then it was, we had a long wait, such a long wait to find out if we got the part, and that was killer, because I really wanted it by that point. I know I said all my big talk about forget about roles, but when you get to that point where you really invested in it, then that was quite hard to forget about. But yeah, I was thrilled when I got the call.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh my God. That's a great audition story. It's really funny to see that. And it works out, right? Now that people are watching it, they see that connection. Eventually, when you play
Yeah,
it over time, you see that connection between Zoe and Mio. It's
exactly.
so like, it just flows so nicely. It just feels like you were meant to be friends. And I can feel that, okay, maybe in the recording studio, you guys have that same kind of relationship over time as well.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, definitely.
yeah, it's so fun to see how much is involved in this game. And as I mentioned before, that you had taken photos of some of the studio as well. Did you know anything about the previous games going into it, or did you were much more focused on what you need to do now?
I I didn't know of Hazelight in particular. I sort of heard about It Takes Two, but I hadn't played games in a while. I used to play games a lot when I was younger, and life got really busy. And yeah, and I just hadn't had the chance to do it. But my brother and my niece and nephew had started to play it, and so I think I sort of was sort of conscious of it. And then obviously when I got the audition, that's when I started looking into it. And I mean, Hazelight as a company, they're just like, as soon as I heard about them, I was like, oh, I really want to work with them. They're cool.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. They're very cool. And I love, obviously, one of the people that people know him as much as Josef Fares, and people love that guy. I know in like he's he started with in the Game Awards. He literally went on and said "fuck the Oscars," which is very people got to know a lot from. So yeah, I mean, I truly believe in that guy. Like, yeah, of course, it makes perfect sense. And so everything that he does has done so much well. I know you and Kaya both worked with him closely. Like, how is it working with Joseph on this game? Like,
Joseph's such an inspirational guy. I mean, everyone kind of knows him as like cut the Oscars and, this huge ball of energy, which he definitely is. But I think he's so impressive in that if he sets his mind to something, he achieves it. He has so much self-belief. And it's not actually ego, like in a bad way. He's not cocky. He's just so sure of himself and confident about what he's doing and what he's creating. And I think his priorities are in order as well. He's a family guy, and he treats everyone involved in Hazelight so well. And so he's really impressive. To work with him is hilarious because, like I say, that energy that comes in. I mean, he's just the minute he's usually the last person to arrive purely because there's a lot of setup and technical stuff to do. And so, you've done all your checks and everything, you've got your dots on your face, and it's just like getting ready to go. And then it's like, hey, and just in the room, and it's like off to a start. And yeah, he's so much fun. They're all fun. He definitely brought a lot of energy and excitement. And but also he's very determined to get exactly what he wants. He knows what he wants, and he knows what's going to work, and so he will keep going until he gets that, which is nice as an actor to have a director who's sure of what they want.
Yeah, it shows so much. There's so many wonderful moments and scenes here and there that I'm like, when you go further into the game, there are moments where you can see that the characters kind of opening up about their past, what they did, and the way it's being built up, it just feels so well like a movie, like how a movie is really done, and it just feels so well, and I just get connected so quickly to that, and it's so wonderfully done. And as a character, Zoe, I know she's such a lovely, bubbly kind of starting out as a character, very cheerful, wants to be friends with Mio. Mio does not want that initially, and so it's such a very fun character to be with. Like, how closely are you connected with Zoe in your personality wise? Are you much more closer to her, or like that's a little bit of a separation there?
I would say there are elements on the surface. I would say that I am very similar to Zoe in terms of energy. In terms of, if I'm passionate about something, it's like I'm excited. I can get giddy quite easily. I love animals. I mean, when we first arrived at Hazelight, we had a very brief outline of the characters, and it was amazing how many things were listed. Because Zoe's this country girl. I'm from the countryside in England. She loves animals, loves fantasy. I've always loved fantasy. Like that's definitely what I would choose over sci-fi. Don't be wrong, I like sci-fi, but for me, like Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones and all of that has always had something for me that's got a bit of a hold on me. And so in terms of that we're very similar. The thing that I don't think we're similar in is how confident she is to make friends. Like, she will put herself out there and just be like, here's me, you want to love me? And I'm very like, I'll sort of sit back and suss people out and think, okay, shall I? No, I don't know, maybe I will. Or, oh yeah, they're definitely my person. So I think we're different in terms of that. But yeah, I love Zoe. She was so much fun to play.
Yeah, I love that character. So cool. And my friend is playing that character. I told him like, can we switch? He's like, no. Eventually, he started like, I'm gonna. He literally started like, okay, I'm gonna pick because I picked Mio initially, and he's like, okay, I'll play Zoe. You don't know anything. And when we started playing, and then eventually, like midway, I was like, can we switch? And he's like, no, I'm.
Tell that to Kaya. Okay, Kaya.
Oh my god, yeah,
we're
definitely.
Friends. I can say
that. Definitely friends. I'm just curious, like, how do you bring that like joyfulness character in such a way that it affects everybody in the positive way possible? Like, when a person is playing it, they're affected in the same way. Like, oh, she is a friend already.
Zoe is just she's unashamedly herself. Like, she has no fears that someone might not like her. And if someone doesn't like her, she's like, okay, well, you might learn to like me, but if you don't like me, I'm not changing. Like, this is me. But never in a kind of mean way. And I think she has that really lovely balance of just, she accepts people for whatever or whoever they are, and just sort of hopes for the same in return. Doesn't have any expectations, but knows that she's a good person. I think that's probably it. She knows she's a good person. And we've all met those people who are just confident in themselves, and that, you know, you take it or leave it. And I think that's the thing with Zoe is, if you don't feel like getting involved, then, you know, you just walk away. And she's like, okay, next thing.
Right.
I think that's it.
It's so cool. And you mentioned like you and Zoe are like sort of close, but also different. Like, what are the aspects of Zoe that are very much close to you? You mentioned like you love fantasy, you love animals. Are you into writing as well?
Oh, I wish I was good at writing. So many times I've thought to myself, oh, that'd be a cool story. And I don't even put pen to paper, because I was not blessed with that talent at all. I think when I was like 12, I started to think I could be a songwriter, and oh my God, no, absolutely not. They were painful. And I've got a lot of people around me who are really good at writing, and I just think it's such an impressive skill to be able to transfer it from your mind onto paper, because it's all here, but I cannot put it to paper. I wish I could.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's very hard. I don't know how people do it. It's just very hard to have anything in my brain to put down in paper and make it feel right. I don't know how that happens.
Exactly.
So I don't know what magic they cook, but they have it. It's so amazing to see over the game. We have this relationship of Zoe and Mio, which is transformed over time. Mio does not want to really be friends. She just want to get out of here. But eventually they have this bonding. And you mentioned earlier, I can see that like kind of bond with you and Kaya. Like, how much has that evolved with you and Kaya from the beginning of the shooting of the game till where you are now?
Kaya and I just have this really easy relationship, because I think we're put into such ridiculous situations. You know, like, okay, today you're going to be pigs, or you're going to be teeth, or right now you're slaying huge dragon. So any situation is a crazy situation. And I think Kaya and I are on a level in terms of turn up and let's have fun and let's do it. Or, you know, if it's a more serious scene, we very much had each other's back. And I feel really fortunate that I had Kaya to work with, because the other thing was it was a very long job. I think it was 3.5 years in total we were shooting this for, mainly because of me, because I went and had a baby in between. We just sort of supported each other in every way, and, you know, having fun, or, you know, if one of us was tired, we really looked after each other, and I really value her for that, because she made what could have been a very long, very hard job a really fun job that I now am really gutted is over.
We will get back into the conversation in just a few seconds, but I just wanted to let you know that if you're enjoying this episode, consider hitting the like button and also subscribing so that you can watch more episodes just like this every single week. And also hit that notification bell icon so that you don't miss any notification on when the next episode is coming out. And now we will jump back into the conversation. With whatever I get to see on Instagram, it's so fun to see you guys like having these these moments sharing together. It's really fun.
The bickering, for sure. Yeah, we will definitely bicker at each other, but in the most fun way.
Yeah. It's
lovely. It's very close to Zoe and Mio, actually. It's very close.
Yeah, I can see that, definitely. It's so wonderful to see. Like, it's in the game, but it's also in real life, very much.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you are into fantasy and a little bit more into sci-fi, like as compared to sci-fi. What's the recent fantasy movie that you watched that you really enjoyed?
House of the Dragon. That's probably the last one. I've got a baby now, so I don't get to watch as much as I want to watch. But yeah, House of the Dragon. I mean, I love all of those. There's definitely, I'm going to kick myself after this, and I'm going to send you a huge message on Instagram with like everything I've watched, because I'm terrible at being put on the spot for remembering things. But there will definitely be something. What have you watched recently?
I have actually watched Dune 2, that fantasy, right? Yeah, Dune.
I haven't seen that yet.
It's like a mix of fantasy,
I've
sci-fi,
seen
I
Dune
guess.
1.
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually,
it's
yeah,
yeah.
it's so fun. It's fantastic. I loved it. It was really really fun. So if you haven't watched, maybe you can check it out if you can get the time. I
I
know
will.
you have like a lot going on. It's gonna be very hard for you to find enough time. Yeah,
No, I definitely want to watch that. I think I've been watching Severance as well, which is definitely
Severance.
more sci-fi.
Yes, that
Um,
is a show
yeah,
I've not watched.
it's
Definitely.
very good. Very good.
Yeah, definitely will take a look into that because that opening scene or whatever that scene was where he's running in the corridor, season 3, I think. Yeah. Ever since that, I was like,
Yeah.
okay, now I'm kind of getting into the show because of
Now
that
I'm
scene.
in. Now I want to
Yeah,
watch
now I'm,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I want to get it a little bit more into a little bit of spoiler side of things. I remember there's a moment where Mio, I think, hugs Zoe for the very first time, which was like kind of like out of nowhere. That was a very cool moment. I felt like, oh wow, this because Mio never really took a step to do something that she would feel good for herself. And do you have like, I'm curious, like, do you have any favorite moment or any scenes that you like the most from the whole game? I know it will be very hard to pick one, but like, do you have any of one favorite moment?
I don't think I could give you one favorite. There are so many. Um, yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because there are all these epic scenes, and we had an amazing writer. Sebastian's so talented, but sometimes it's like the little in between bits where, like, we did a lot of falling into scenes, or exploding, or you know, I think there's one bit on the Giants level where you have to jiggle the, what do you call it, the bait bit, and that in real life. I mean, you've come at me with like a really sentimental moment, and I'm giving you jiggling some bait, but that will stick in my mind forever because me and Kaya could not keep a straight face because we were like just having to like do this to nothing, staring at each other because obviously in the game you're opposite sides, so you wouldn't actually see the other person, but and we just kept falling about laughing. So I can't watch that bit now. I can't play that bit without just being like
Oh my god. Oh, it's
that.
a
But
trigger
yeah,
moment.
it's a trigger moment. But there are so many lovely, lovely bits that I adore. I think when Mio starts to sort of help Zoe, the journey that Mio takes, I find really sweet. That she suddenly not only opens up about herself, but opens up to be available to support Zoe. I think that there's a lot of moments like that are really special.
Yeah, definitely. That it just keeps on growing and eventually evolving about like, okay, both of them have something to share. And for the longest time, Zoe was someone like she shared a little bit, but like was hiding a lot of things behind until towards the very end. Because even though we are like, I think at the very close towards the end when they're in their subconsciousness and it's like, we know like there's so much more, but Zoe still is not saying enough. Like she just on the surface level and just like that's it. I think of judgment and whatnot. And that story, that a full story that we get to see is so heartbreaking. That moment of her, like, you were crying and getting emotional of what happened. And that, like, somehow that scene was so well done. It just builds up everything, all the emotions. I'm wondering, like, what was that day like when you were shooting that particular scene? When you're doing that scene, like, was there some particular process that you need to go through to get to make sure that that scene is done right?
Yeah. So this is what I mean about me and Kaya had a good balance because she kind of instinctively knew she had to just leave me alone for a little bit beforehand, whereas normally we were sat right together, being silly, having a laugh or whatever. But I have to, when there's something as heavy as that, I have to take myself away and sort of, it's really weird, get into the headspace of something really awful happening, but put a lid on it. And so it's literally under there. I mean, not loads back to do this. I'm not preaching anything new at all. But so that when you go in to do the scene, it's literally ready to explode. And so I did that, and I think we only did 2 takes of that scene because I think 2 takes that were acting, the rest was technical. But it was, yeah, it wasn't a fun day, but it was satisfying because I knew this scene was coming up, and I think they even switched it in the order, so it was suddenly like, oh, doing that scene now, and I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, those kind of scenes are really weird because they're not, you really have to shake it off after, and that's why it was such a good team because we all kind of like went and had a laugh, and got rid of that energy because it was sad.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was such a moment. I feel like that, like between Mio and Zoe, and although like I'm not really biased, but I'm really, when I saw both of their subconscious story, which is towards the end, like I still feel like I was so much more connected with Zoe because she's not saying something, and I don't know what it was, but the build up, the music, and everything that's building up towards it, the scene towards the end near the house, it was just like all of that just felt so strong and so connected, and I could not get emotional. Like it just had to happen. So I was like, oh, this is somehow getting so much more, stronger. And I remember my friend was like, hey, you okay? I'm like, I'm fine. As like I had to like it's happened. Like, yeah, it's too much dust outside, it's fine. But yeah, it was a really wonderful moment. Like I really admire what you did for that. So that was really, really well done.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot. Thank you.
Absolutely. This whole game has been such a wonderful thing. And I know you have given everything to Zoe. In turn, Zoe has learned a lot from you. Is there anything that you have learned from Zoe?
Oh yeah. I think just the ability to not really care what others think of you. I've never been obsessed with what people think about me. I've always been a bit of a geek and a bit nerdy and said what I think. But I think she's that extra level of being who she wants to be, but being kind. She's so kind and caring. And I love that. And I think she's just a really good reminder to keep kindness and to be open and available to all adventures and, to be hopeful, because right at the start you see that she's obsessed with being published, and you're ruining my chances of getting published and all of that. Like that's the only time really that she's a bit like, oh, go away. That's it. Once she's dealt with that little issue, she's okay, cool. Should we be friends? Should we still be pigs? Like, so yeah, I think it's that. I think it's that kindness and that the openness and the sense of adventure. I think I take that with me a little bit.
Yeah,
Not to
that's
say that I
amazing.
wasn't kind before, by the way. I was kind.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. Oh
Yeah,
my
before
God.
I was right, bitch. You can cut that bit.
I'm gonna keep that for sure. That's not gonna
I'm
cut.
not going to keep that now, are you? Damn it! I hope Kaya says something like that inappropriate.
I'm gonna let I'm gonna let Kaya know, like, you have to say everything appropriate because you said so, and I hopefully that makes her say inappropriate stuff so that
She'll say something inappropriate. Yeah, she will. She will. Definitely inappropriate.
Okay, all right. Good to know. It's wonderful to see how much the game has in general. I don't know how, like, obviously I've seen a lot and there's so many different levels. Do you remember any of the moments that you found like, oh wow, this is so cool to see, like whether it's dragons turning into a pig, fairy, like do you have any of like specific favorites of that kind where you're like, okay, this one was really cool to see?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. I love tundra. Like
Oh, wow.
all the sort of like the woodlands and and then like I just loved it, and like the ice palace, and I thought it was beautiful. The design on this is insane. I mean, I know there's a couple of people who have like tagged me on Instagram with they've done screen captures of I don't know how they do it with they caught images, and they're like artwork. They're just incredible. And so I think for me, yeah, I loved all of that. I mean, I love the costumes as well. I was like, do we get to have any like real life costumes? But that's the downside of doing mocap, right? You don't actually get to keep any costumes. But yeah, I loved it all. All the levels were really cool. But I think Tundra for me was the one that I was a bit wowed by, because it was just kind of nature and yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, you mentioned like you that if the costumes were kind of real, you'd have taken one of those. Do you have any one in mind that you would have taken one back home with you?
Well, I'm with Zoe. Like Zoe's fantasy ones are so much better than the sci-fi. The sci-fi is like, yeah, you're good, you're sassy, you can look a bit sexy, great. But my fantasy ones, I mean, I love them. I love them all. I think I'll just take them. Can I just have them all? I'm really hoping someone like starts to cosplay these roles so I can see how they do it, because I think it's so cool.
Oh my, you have said it. I think people are gonna do it already. I think people are already on the way. Yeah, they're probably on their way, just trying to figure out how to cosplay, because there are definitely some
Cannot
really
wait to
cool.
see it.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got so many choices, haven't they? There's so many costumes in there. Good job it wasn't a film, because the costume department would have been like 24/7 working. But,
You're doing that? No. Yeah. too many. Wow. It must be. Yeah. It's crazy. Do you think that you'll be playing the game yourself?
yes. So, this is really sweet. My one of my nieces and nephews, they are desperate to play the game, and so my brother has bought a new console and a game, and I'm going back to see them in a couple of weeks, and they want to play it with me. And I probably won't end up playing it because I can't really steal the game from the kids. But what's really cute is they're arguing over who's going to play me, and I think that's really sweet. Although I'm slightly concerned that they're going to think Mio's cooler, because I think the kids probably Mio's cooler. I think Kaya's got that edge on me.
Maybe,
She's a
I
bit
don't
more
know.
edgy.
I don't know. Maybe they'll
We'll
find
see.
Zoe. Yeah, I think so. Zoe might be a good pick for them as well.
I'll feed back to you on whether I win or not.
Definitely. That would
There's
be
always a competition with me and Kaya.
Oh my God. I don't know if there'll be a. I don't think so there'll be a poll or anything. Like, how many people pick Zoe over Mio or Mio over Zoe? Like, kind of like, I don't think so that would be a thing. I don't.
I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Let's not make that a
I would probably
competition.
play Mio though. I think I probably would
Really?
play Mio, because
Really?
obviously I've played Zoe,
True.
physically played Zoe, so it'd be quite cool to play Mio.
Yeah, definitely. With this, like, there's a lot of fans who had some questions that they wanted to ask you. If they're okay. All right. First one comes from your number one fan, Hazelight Studios. Like, what's your secret of being amazing all the time? That's Hazelight. It's coming from someone from Hazelight Studios.
Guys, well, it's easy to be amazing when you've got amazing people to work with. I should not be allowed to do interviews.
This is
They're the best.
perfect.
They are the best. I mean, I should just insert here that, like I say, I had a baby in the middle of this, and they actually like paused production and let me go off and have this baby. And they were so kind. They paid for my husband and my baby to come out with me, because we started when he was only 3 months old, which was interesting. Suddenly, like going back into the motap suit 3 months after having a baby. But they are just the most incredible company. I will never ever stop raving about Hazelight. And they're good at what they do as well. So, nice people, good at what they do. These guys.
Oh yeah,
Turn
yeah,
off.
yeah. As us people like who played their games, they're really wonderful, and you sharing more of their stories, like, it's really cool to see how much they support the actors and the players who are playing the game. There's this really fun community, and it's really wonderful to see that. And next
Yeah.
comes from Skyline. They ask, like, are there any moments while voicing Zoe that felt more personal to you?
Yeah, I mean, a bit like we talked about earlier with the end scene, well, not end scene, but one of the sort of very highly emotional scene. I kind of used personal stuff to sort of get there, and so I felt really connected to that scene. I haven't lost a sibling, thankfully, but I use things, and so I think I will always feel a bit connected to that. And when we watched it back, normally I'm cringing watching myself back, but I did find myself getting a little bit emotional again, and I think that's quite special to have that connection there. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, I cannot imagine like how it must be like to re-watch a scene that you know how you did to be there and on that day, and then watching that again back, and the fact that you get emotional, that sounds like a beautiful thing.
Well, I mean, it's another level of weird as well, because it's not, I mean, they used my likeness, but it's still
Right.
not exactly what I did, because it's motion capture. So it's kind of, I was a bit nervous about,
Right.
how's it going to look crying in motion capture? Like, awful a lot. You can't do like a single tear with motion capture.
Right. Suddenly there are now dots for the tears as well. No, I'm just kidding. Next comes from Nina. They ask, what character traits do you share with Zoe?
Oh, like you said before, the giddiness. if I get giddy about something, if I'm excited for something, I'm really excited for it. I think she is quite competitive as well, and I am very competitive. Like in a lot of the little side stories, that competitive nature, which they both have, and both Kaya and I have. We were talking about playing the game together, me and Kaya. We're sort of in talks about whether we can get together and do it, and it might not be a good idea.
I mean, that would be a perfect
I mean,
idea.
it would be great to watch for other people.
Definitely. I mean, it will be great for everybody else to watch. It will be great for you guys to play. You guys will be competitive, and we'll see the real you. And everybody
Yeah,
will
well,
love
yeah.
that. We all love seeing
Yeah,
that.
so I would do that. Yeah.
That'd be great. A gaming professor Somik asks, what was your reaction when you saw your character becoming a pig, a fairy, or a cyber ninja?
I loved it. So you have to, at the start, you know how the outfit change, so it's like they sort of all up like that. So every time you start a new scene, you have to, acknowledge that. So obviously, every time we're doing it, we don't actually have any idea what the design is. Sometimes we've got a little sneak peek. So the costumes never really kind of like knew exactly what we were doing. However, the pig, me and Kaya spent way too long, because there's a screen in the room that if they've got the character mocked up, you can see what you look like as that pig walking. So as you're walking, you're seeing the pig. And we spent honestly about 10 minutes doing the pig wiggle and like being ridiculous, and then trying to hug each other as pigs, high-fiving as pigs. So that one. The fairy for me was quite cool, but definitely overshadowed by Kaya doing the monkey, because she was all in on that one. She was all in, and everyone had an opinion on her monkey butt as well. Like,
Wow.
yeah, I loved it all. I loved it, the opportunity to do it all. I think we also spent quite a long time dancing around his teeth. When we did the teeth,
wow,
the dentist,
right.
that was quite cool. With our little wobbly toothpaste hair. Yeah. Somewhere I've got videos. I'm going to drip feed all of these videos that I've got. I've got to find them all. But yeah, embarrass myself and Kaya.
Wow. I love that. Is so cool. It's so cool to see some of those behind the scenes moments, because I'm always curious, like, how does it feel to look when you're recording and when you're in that studio? How does it feel to look at what you're seeing on the screen at times? Like, you cannot stand but do some silly stuff when you're seeing what's happening on screen. Like, you just cannot stop.
Definitely.
Yeah. Last question comes from same person, gaming Professor Somik. He says, what are the 3 qualities you liked about Zoe and 3 that you disliked about Zoe?
Oh, okay, so the 3 that I liked are similar to what I've said. So her positivity, her kindness, and her sense of adventure. The 3 things that I didn't like about her, that's hard. I've never been asked that. I mean, it's not so much a dislike. I don't think I can even do 3, but it's not such a dislike. But it's more like you sort of. I want her to not put herself out there so much, because, like I said, she's not bothered about it. But Amia's not unkind. She's just a bit rude at the start. But if it was someone who was unkind, she'd be such an easy victim for bullying. So I guess being a bit tougher, maybe a bit tougher. I'd wish she'd be a bit tougher. But that's really hard. I've not thought of that before, but I can't really think of. I'll email you.
I'll be waiting
You're
for
going to
that.
get a big email. Fantasy email?
Fantasy emails. Waiting for that. I'm waiting for that. That'll be my first fantasy email of all time.
This is why I went back with a script. I need to be given a script.
I mean, come on. I feel like this is why you should not be given a script, because it works the best this way. Oh man, this has been super fun. Thank you so much, Elsie, for taking the time today for talking to me about all of this. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for doing that.
Oh, a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. It's been really fun. It's lovely to talk about it all.